Welcome to Iceland. My name is Gylfi, and I will be your brutally honest guide while we explore the village Grenivík, which is situated by the mouth of the beautiful fjord Eyjafjörður, and we are only 60 kilometers south of the Arctic Circle. And since the town's background is the vast Flateyjarskagi Peninsula, I felt it as appropriate to make the village and the peninsula into a package of 4 videos. And the other 3 videos are a part of a new video series where I'm filming Icelandic roads with as little editing as I can get away with. So if you like this guided tour and want to see more, you can check my links for the long version with the music and the nature only. So welcome to Grenivík and the Flateyjarskagi Peninsula. Grenivík village is a part of a municipality with 400 inhabitants, and the municipality has the challenging name Grýtubakkarhreppur, and 300 residents live in the village and the other 100 are the local farmers. And that is where the village started. It grew from agricultural related activities, but as the local harbor facilities improved by time, fish processing became and still is a big part of the town's industrial history. Small-scale tourism has always been present in some form, but Grenivík is not by the official ring road, which drives the mainstream traffic away from the village. So the official Arctic Coastway that offered dramatic seascapes and minimal crowds was established in 2019, but that concept is not doing them justice, despite the fact that the peninsula offers some of the most exciting coastal roads that you can find in the north. So they are not very good at marketing, which is the case with many other villages of this size, and the biggest reason for why I'm doing my own videos about this. And despite the small population, this is a town that has rich characteristics of independence, like they still have a district bank that didn't sell its soul to the big sharks, and one of the biggest workplaces in town produces traditional Icelandic dried fish, which is a hugely popular snack, often found in my car, shortly before I have to vacuum clean it, because this good protein has a few drawbacks. The village has, of course, a convenience store, and it's possible to get a burger and cold beer there. But to be brutally honest, it's a good idea to check those diners online first when planning your trip, because many road joints tend to be brutally expensive, with weird opening hours as well. But the local museum, it offers, however, free entrance, and it should be like that, because it's just a little exhibition in an old bait shed where you can see some of the old equipment used by Icelandic fishermen during the old days. And the museum is not big enough to charge for the admission, but there is a tips jar there, and I think it's a good arrangement. And although fish processing is the largest industry in the village, there is a company there that produces cosmetics. So the job market here is not hopeless like in many towns of this size. And like all decent towns, they have a swimming pool and a campsite beside it, and of course a gym. But the local tourism industry has mostly involved small companies, in many cases operating from farms around the village. Like this is a large farmhouse campground just a few kilometers south of the town. And nearby there is another farm offering riding tours. And the Turf House Museum Laufás is also nearby. It dates back to the 19th century and offers visitors a glimpse into how Icelanders once lived. But to be brutally honest, this was Buckingham Palace compared to the rest of the farms around that were in general absolute shitholes. And back in those days, we didn't have much fuel in Iceland, and in many cases, lamps were powered by shark oil, and then we had all this fermented food. So when we look at travel books from this era, we can find extremely colorful descriptions when it comes to how Icelandic farms smelled. But I still recommend the museum. It is very nice. And from there, it's only 20 minutes drive to Akureyri, the capital of North Iceland, with a population of 20,000. And that makes living in Grenivík so much simpler, of course, since they have healthcare, shopping, education, and such services so close by. And it makes it also possible to live in the quiet countryside and work in Akureyri, like many do actually. But it might be about to change how quiet the town is, as we have a major construction going on there now, or on the Cape by the village. And I was actually filming there during the first day of construction in 2022, when they were getting ready. And this same spot, it looks like this in 2025. And this is a hotel, around 6,000 square meters, with 40 luxury rooms. And when it's fully operational, it will provide around 50 jobs, which is a lot in a community of 400. So they had to build separate houses for the staff, which probably comes from all over the world. And the company behind this has been quite successful on the so-called helicopter skiing market. And the new hotel is a part of their concept. And they have mostly been taking tourists to the Tröllaskagi Peninsula at the other side of the fjord, where many good slopes can be found. And the mountain behind the village, Kaldbakur, it has also been a tourist attraction for skiers, since someone got the idea to buy an old snowcat, and it was used for years to transport tourists up to the mountains. But sadly, that operation has been discontinued, at least for a while, which is not good because the basic idea was excellent. And some used to do the trip for the view alone and came back with the snowcat, while others brought the skis and had fun on the way back. And if I see this service be available again, I will of course leave links. But they do, however, offer kayak tours, and I think it's a good idea when the weather is good. But again, the local tourism industry suffers a bit from lack of information. So I had to work my way through outdated information in many cases. And I will of course update the information in the video description when I see a reason to do so. But now it's time to do one of the 3 road tours. Not the full tours, of course, they are in the other videos. But this is just to get you going, see what to expect. And the first road runs to the north along the coast, where only one farmhouse remains. So the road starts like this, and then it turns to this. And it has no official road number. And this route is also a good idea for hikers or bikers. The only life we find around are sheep grazing during summer, and you might run into curious Arctic fox as well, but it has already eaten most of the birds, so this is not the place to go bird watching. And as you must already see, this was a very difficult agricultural area due to the lack of lowland. So wherever the farmers found a usable patch of land, it was used, despite the risk of avalanches, even rock or mudslides. So what kept people here was the fact that the usable land around was actually quite good for the sheep. And if everything failed, as for agriculture, the farmers had always the option to go out to the sea to fish, because good fishing grounds were nearby. So people never starved here, although life was very hard. And this coastal road, it ends by a farmhouse called Grímsnes, where I shot this photo because it demonstrates how people tried to make the most from limited resources, like cement. And after this farmhouse, it's hiking only. And the most popular route runs through an old farm at Látur that used to be a fishing station for shark hunters. And from there it takes us over a mountain pass to the fjords on the north coast. So part 1 of the drive-around trip covers this road by the coast, and part 2 covers the other end of the hiking trail. And the peninsula was the land of many of my forefathers. My grandmother was born on this coast in 1915, on this little green piece of land, where landmarks can still be seen through the green color. And living here was nothing easy. And my grandmother's parents, they moved to here from the fjord Hvalvatnsfjörður. That I cover in part 2 of my drive around videos. So let's move there. And that trip starts just a few kilometers south of Grenivík. It takes us little over an hour to get there. And the road is even suitable for popular rental cars like the Dusters. But if it has been raining a lot, you would need a bigger car because there are no bridges there and plenty of small creeks. Usually very easy, but not all the time. And there is a guest house on the way because this is just by a popular fishing river. And as you get closer to the ocean, the river forms a lake before it takes off over the rift to the sea. And the name of the lake is Hvalvatn, or Whale Lake. And the fjord's name is Hvalvatnsfjörður, or Whale Lake Fjord. And it occurred to me that once upon a time, some lonely little and not so clever whale found its way through the reef and ended up in the lake. Or the waves perhaps tossed him into the lake. And it was so amusing for the locals that the Whale Lake name got stuck to the place. And the lake is one of the fishing zones of the river. And if you're into this, I'm leaving information about the fishing lessons. It's not very expensive on an Icelandic scale. And like with the coast we came from, it's noteworthy how fertile this land is. Prime land for sheep grazing, so it's plenty of them around. And that is what kept people here for centuries. Good summers delivered fat lambs, so they could overlook the cold and lonely winters, where snowfall was often on extreme level. And on top of that, avalanches took many lives, and not even the fishermen were safe because there was never a good harbor here. And let's check out the third road. And that road is the longest of them, but also the best, although it's plenty of little creeks flowing over it. And the valley is called Flateyjardalur, named after the nearby island Flatey. That means a flat island. And like elsewhere on the peninsula, the residents relied on fishing and sheep farming to survive, and the communication with the outside world was limited, so families often dependent on each other for survival. And as Iceland got into the 1950s, infrastructure was improving all around, and that drew people away from isolated communities like here. And the long-awaited road through this valley, it only became a reality just about when the last permanent resident left the valley. So it was too late. But the road is still there, and we are grateful for having it, because the valley remains as a cherished summer destination for descendants of former residents, and of course adventurous travelers seeking solitude and a connection to a way of life that has disappeared. So a few of the abandoned farmhouses are used as summer cabins, and the road into the valley is only open during summer months. And in many ways, the life on the peninsula symbolizes the broader story of rural Iceland, life forged in hardship and remembered with deep affection. And the island Flatey was a part of this community, but like the valleys, it was also abandoned. And what remains there are well-kept summer houses and the old church. So the island Flatey, it deserves its own video. So I'm keeping that story for later. And the geology of this region is also a separate story that I have told a few times in bits and pieces when it becomes a part of my volcano and earthquake updates. And that is because the largest slipstrike fault in Iceland runs from the island and across this bay, Skjálfandaflói, or the Shaking Bay, and this is where the fault comes up by the village Húsavík, and the fault and its surroundings is categorized as a high-risk area that has and could again produce up to a magnitude 7 earthquakes. And looking at the mountains around, I have to wonder about the reason for many of those formations, like did this mountain collapse? And if so, how tall was it? And how come that this cape sticks up like this on the Flati Húsavík fault? And what is the story about this massive, ancient and extinct central volcano on the middle of the peninsula? But it's heavily eroded by glacial activity, which has stripped away surface lava and revealed internal features. So the last sunlight of this day was telling me to come back, enjoy the colors. So this was not my last trip there. And some of my future trips involve the farms where my ancestors lived. I know about most of the locations already, but as for the coast where we started, the island Flatey and those two valleys, what they have in common is that life was not easy, and the population decline eventually led to the peninsula to be fully abandoned in the 1950s, and the island Flatey was abandoned in the 1960s. And I hope you understand now why I preferred to do this peninsula in this package. But the other videos are over 3 hours of uninterrupted footage. And overall, I recommend the peninsula for those looking to experience the quiet rhythms of a rural Icelandic life. And Grenivík is the ideal destination to work from, whether if it's hiking, driving, or horseback riding. And lucky them to have the mountain Kaldbakur in the background, because it's supposed to be the best meditation mountain in Iceland, or this huge energy source. It's supposed to be enough to look at it for a while and you will feel as new. But please note that my channel does not provide any kind of guarantee for such results. But this is fine for now. My journey will of course continue. It won't be long until my next video will be online. And until then, I'm sending you best regards from my home country, Iceland.